I want winners. I want people that want to win.
You play to win the game. You don't play to just play it.
You got to put your money where your mouth is, Pete.
It's not gambling advice. It's not gambling advice, but I'm fired up. Wednesday, February 23rd. Welcome to Not Gambling Advice. Today, first base. We're ranking 30 to 11, and then 1 through 10 will come out on Friday. Not gambling advice. How you doing, Colby Olson? Ready to rock on first baseman?
Freaking amped. First baseman is such a fun position because there's just no lack of hitting ability.
No.
All these guys rake. Even like the 25th ranked guy absolutely rakes. Like the catchers, 25th ranked guy like is barely startable even on their own team. First base is loaded.
And that's why we wanted to separate a little bit, right? Because there are so many good first basemen, and a lot of these first basemen will most likely be on your fantasy baseball roster in 2022. So for this episode on Wednesday, you will hear 30 to 11, and then on Friday you will hear our rank 10 to 1. We had to separate them, and we're most likely going to have to separate all of these positions because there's just so many good players to talk about. So I guess we could just start off with a bang. At number 31, we have Nick Pratto. And at number 30, we have Miguel Sano. At number 29, we have Eric Hosmer. At 28, Jesus Aguilar. At 27, we have Bobby Dalbec. At 26, we have Rowdy Tellez. 25, Luke Voit. 24, Frank Schwindel. 23, Nate Lowe. Number 22, Jonathan Scope. And number 21, Spencer Torkelson. So you'll be able to see our entire top 30 on justbaseball.com. But before we get into 20 to 11, we're going to talk more about those guys because those guys will definitely be on your team. But who out of the 21 to 31 ranks do you see as being a possible sleeper, someone to grab in the later rounds?
I see Nick Pratto as not a guy to draft, but he's a guy to keep your eye on the waiver wire. Whenever he gets called up for the Royals, I think he'll be a guy that doesn't waste much time to make an impact. I don't think he's going to go through too many growing pains. The guy just hits. Another guy that I'm really excited about going into 2022 is Bobby Dalbec. And you might hear that and you might be a little surprised because Bobby Dalbec really struggled in the first half last season. He was a guy that was like Javi Baez. He struck out 35% of the time, was just basically swinging at everything that was coming at him. Like, I don't think he had any plan going up to the plate. But that all changed in the second half. You could see his approach changed. He started walking more. His K rate went down near 30%, which for a guy with the pop he does, he can do some damage. So he, in the second half, had the 6th highest hard hit rate, the 17th best WRC plus. And if he locks down an everyday role in that Red Sox lineup in 2022, I could envision a 30 to 35 home run, season, and could even go towards 90 RBIs or even 100 RBIs. He has that much pop.
I do agree with you with Bobby Dalbec. I think if given enough opportunities, this could be a guy who makes a major impact in the power department. The only problem is the average department won't help you very much, and he's not going to steal any bases. So it's mostly going to be reliant upon home runs and RBIs. But in that Red Sox lineup, you're not only do you have stars around you to score runs for you to drive you in, but also you're hitting at Fenway Park, one of the best hitters parks in all of baseball. I think if Bobby Dalbec gets enough, Bobby Dalbec gets enough opportunities, he could go into the top 20 and be a valuable contributor on your fantasy team. A guy I'm really looking at is Spencer Torkelson. And the only thing that we have to figure out about Spencer Torkelson is, will he start opening day? Will he come up after Super 2? Are we going to see him in June? Because if he is starting opening day, wherever position he's at, most likely he will not be. But if he is, he's a top 10 first baseman. That's the kind of bat we're looking at with Spencer Torkelson. So although he's ranked 21st in our rankings, it's almost as a placeholder. We're thinking he's going to come up probably after Super 2. When do you think we're going to see Spencer Torkelson?
I think it's a tough landscape right now, because I think in a normal offseason without the lockout, I think
exactly
Torkelson is a lock to make opening day roster. But say spring training is shortened, especially right now, like say a deal gets done later this week, everybody's going to be rushing through spring training, rushing into opening day. And I'm not sure that they're going to want to throw him into that. So yeah, he might start the year in AAA and come up at Super 2. I still think that makes him worthy of drafting, but probably not as early as if he was going to make opening day. I think you're absolutely right. But this is a guy that, yeah, could hit 25 home runs and drive an 80 in a full season.
I even think he could do more, honestly. I think he could come up and hit 30 home runs in his rookie season. This is one of the top prospects in all of baseball. Definitive top 5, top 10 at the worst, whatever list you're looking at on justbaseball.com. He's a definitive top 10 prospect. We're looking at a potential top 5 first baseman in a couple of years. And I think in his rookie season, he could really blast off because the bat is so developed already. But then there's also the rookie wall that he could possibly hit. How long is he going to play into the season? Will he continue to play really well in the second half? It's just hard to gauge, but a guy like Spencer Torkelson is a guy that I want to bet on over a lot of other rookies.
Yep. I think another guy that, barring health, is going to be very good is Luke Voit. He led baseball in home runs over in the 2020 season, which was obviously shortened, but we've seen that this guy can rake, and he's not going to absolutely implode your average either. He can hit. So I could see him. He's ranked 26 now, and his ADP right now is 270. So like you're getting him in the back end of drafts. It's a guy with a lot of upside with 35 to 40 home run power as well.
The only problem with Luke Voit is how much opportunity is he going to get? Because at first base, most likely the Yankees are going to make a move after the lockout ends. Will that be for Matt Olson? Will it be for Freddie Freeman? Or do they decide, all right, we're going to go with Anthony Rizzo and Luke Voit, kind of a platoon? But then again, at DH, how many at-bats does he truly get with Giancarlo Stanton, Aaron Judge needing a day off here and there? I mean, you could even go around the diamond and say Gleyber Torres could get some at-bats at DH along with Gary Sanchez. So there's just not a lot of playing time for Luke Voit. But you're right. If we're talking talent, the power is there. And he's also proved that he can hit for a decently high batting average. So I like Luke Voit going into this year in terms of the talent. The reason why he's 26th is because how much playing time is he actually going to get?
He's going to get traded to the Pirates. They love trading with the Pirates. He's going to get traded to the Pirates for like David Bednar. I'm telling you, like that's already happening.
And if he goes to the Pirates, he'll probably move up in these rankings. So that's why we're doing it in February. We're getting you hyped up for the fantasy baseball season. But of course, these can change depending on where guys move after the lockout. So let's kick it off right now with number 20, Alex Kiriloff of the Minnesota Twins. So I had Kiriloff as one of my rookie of the year picks last year, but he only played 59 games and really didn't break out like I thought he might. But I may have been a season too early on Kiriloff as he's still so talented. He had 8 home runs while hitting 251 last year, but I'm expecting the batting average to be much better, probably around 270 to 280 with 20 home runs if he stays healthy. He's got power. And he's also got some nice positional versatility, clocking in games at first base and the outfield. I think Kiriloff could be a big sleeper, and he comes in our rankings at number 20, but he's even being drafted higher than that right now, currently going as the 18th first baseman off the board. I don't think it's a bad idea to put him there, but we have him at 20.
Yeah, I think that's a fine idea. You mentioned that his batting average last year, 251, but his batting average was 291, and he hits the ball really hard, 44% hard hit rate. And overall, I think that the other important thing here too is lefties oftentimes have lefty splits, right? This is a guy that hits lefties really, really well and actually hit lefties better than righties last season. He was dealing with a wrist injury most of the year as well, which eventually he had to get season-ending wrist surgery. So I think going healthy into 2022, yeah, Kiriloff is like locked in as a breakout candidate. It's probably being drafted not even as a breakout candidate. He's probably being drafted as he's going to be really good next year. But yeah, I'm all over him.
Absolutely. And you should be drafting him like a candidate who not maybe breakout. I think he will break out next year.
So that leads us into our number 19 ranked guy. It's a guy you probably know about, Yuli Gurriel, the Houston Astros. He's currently being drafted 199 ADP. So so last year he was age 37. He hit 319 with 15 home runs, 83 runs, 81 driven in, and 1 stolen base. Since 2017, he's had a 295 average. And honestly, it should be higher than that because in 2020, he had a fluky 230 average. Something was going on there. He's hit almost or above 300 in like every single season since being in the majors. And I see no reason why he can't do that again next year. And even in his age 38 season, he's still going to hit in an Astros lineup that he could easily have, 80 to 90 runs, 80 to 90 RBIs. He had over 100 runs and RBIs back in 2019, which is, a little fluky, but, 20 to 25 home runs with solid stats all around. He is as safe of a draft pick as it gets back here.
As safe as it gets. He's automatically going to check 4 boxes for you. That's home runs, that's RBIs, that's runs, and that's especially batting average. He's not going to hit 30 home runs like the rest of these guys might, but he'll make up for that in the batting average department. And you're right. Although he's 37 years old, I don't really see the age hitting him that hard. I mean, his max exit velocities are, the highest since 2019. His average exit velocities are totally fine. They're in the upper echelon of other major league players. He doesn't strike out. He doesn't swing and miss. He takes his walks. He's just a really professional hitter. And I would love for him to be a mainstay on my fantasy baseball team because he's just so solid and exactly what you're going to get. And, we're going to talk about another guy who's getting up there in age, which I'm a little bit more concerned about. And that's number 18, Brandon Belt of the San Francisco Giants. Like I said, Belt's only real concern is injuries. He had a 173 WRC plus in 2020 and a 158 WRC plus in 2021. Now, WRC plus doesn't really matter for fantasy, but what it goes to show is how good of a hitter he is. But again, the problem, only in 148 games over 2 seasons. It was a shortened COVID 2020 year, and he played 51, so he was relatively healthy, but he's been dealing with injuries throughout his career. So let's talk about, though, when he's on the field, because the man hit 29 home runs in 97 games last year, but he will turn 34 on April 20th. So he's creeping up there a bit in age. If we can get 130 games out of Brandon Belt, expect him to be near the top 10 with 30 home runs, a 260 batting average. And weirdly, he might even steal you a couple bags. He stole 3 last year. Brandon Belt on the field is one of the best hitting first basemen in baseball. What can we expect? How much is he going to actually be on the field? That's the main question.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, when Brandon Belt makes contact with the ball, good things happen. He hit a whopping 73% of his contact in the air, mixed with a 45% hard hit rate. Super, super solid. His 323 isolated power was 4th in baseball behind Tatis, Ohtani, and Mike Zunino. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right. If he has 500 PAs, it's super easy to expect 30 home runs again. And he should be hitting at the top of a Giants lineup. So can't miss if he stays healthy here.
Can't miss. It's just the only problem is I feel like you'll be moving him a lot from your first base slot to the IL back to your first base slot. Like he's just a guy that as he creeps up there in age, where do you draft a guy like this? Because on just offensive talent, he's top 10, but with the other stuff, he could fall out of the top 20 very easily. That's why we have him in 18.
Yep. And I think it's important to mention that he's being drafted. His ADP is 227, which is literally equal to Bobby Dalbec. So like weighing those, it's who do you pick? I'm taking Brandon Belt, but I think the upside of Dalbec could be even higher, but Belt's going to have a much higher average.
I don't think the upside is even higher with Dalbec over Belt. I mean, the upside with Belt is one of the best hitters in baseball. If we're looking at WRC plus, like he really is phenomenal. So we have him at 18 right now. He's getting drafted a little bit later. I think that's because we do believe that even in, let's say he plays 120 games, he can still be a top 20 first baseman because of that potential that he has at the plate.
Great point. And so that moves us into 17. A guy that reminds me a lot of Brandon Belt for some reason. Maybe it's because they've been around about the same amount of time. It's Anthony Rizzo, who's currently a free agent. I think you mentioned him earlier about where he's going to sign. I think he's going to sign with the Yankees. I think they're going to re-sign him. He likes New York. New York likes him. He just fits their mold. The short porch and right. Last year, he had a very, very solid season. And that's something that when it comes to Anthony Rizzo, that's a given. Like this guy has just made a career on solid season after solid season. 248 with 22 bombs, 73 runs and 61 RBIs last season. He also stole 6 bags last year. And at first base, that's, such a cherry on top because none of these first basemen steal any bags. He primarily hit in the 2-hole as a Yankee, which I think is awesome because I think that could bring him to 100 runs, close to that in the 2-hole of a Yankees lineup. This is a guy that's back to being can't miss. He's going to be solid for you. I don't know that the ceiling is going to be crazy. I don't think he's going to hit 30 home runs, but you're locking in 20 to 25 bombs, a 250 to 260 average, and just like solid stats across the board with the upside of a Yankees lineup if he signs there.
And I think that's something to monitor because, I mean, what are we going to tell you about Anthony Rizzo that you don't already know? Anthony Rizzo is Anthony Rizzo. You know what you're getting. It's safe. But with the potential of being in that Yankees lineup, I could see him maybe moving up a couple spots in these rankings. Maybe not that far up. And then on the other side, if he goes to a team with a huge ballpark, maybe moves down a couple of slots. But this is really where you're going to find Anthony Rizzo. He's as safe as it gets. And if you take him in your fantasy baseball draft and you get a couple other X factors or a couple sleepers, and you know what you're going to get from Anthony Rizzo, it feels good. You know what I'm saying? It feels good in your heart. You're like, I know what I'm going to get from Anthony Rizzo. Very similar to Yuli Gurriel.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, he had his highest hard hit rate and highest fly ball percentage of his career last year. So he's definitely making changes, and Yankee Stadium would be huge for him.
Anthony Rizzo aging like fine wine. So that brings us to number 16, Trey Mancini of the Baltimore Orioles. I mean, what a warrior Trey Mancini is. He missed the entire 2020 season beating stage 3 colon cancer in the process. He follows that up in 2021 with a 250 batting average and 21 home runs in 147 games. It was a solid season, but my guess is with a full year to train normally, he'll be even better next year. I think he can go right back to hitting 30 home runs. He hit 35 in 2019. And I'm expecting a 260 to a 270 batting average with the possibility of it being even greater than that with plenty of RBIs in an improved Orioles offense. I'm very excited for what we're going to see from Trey Mancini, especially with a full season to actually get back to training. And I'm just happy the man is healthy because he's one of the most fun players to watch in baseball.
Such a fun player, such a good dude, kind-hearted guy. I think that the cool thing here with Mancini is we have a big sample size. In 4 full seasons, Mancini's averaged 26 home runs, 80 runs, 76 RBIs with a 270 average. You're telling me you're not taking that as the 16th ranked first baseman? I'm taking that all day long. As you mentioned, in 2019, he had 35 home runs, 106 runs, and 97 RBIs. And I think the Orioles lineup next year could be even better. We saw the emergence of Cedric Mullins last year. Austin Hayes is solid, and the addition of Adley this year could be huge. So Mancini, I think, will have plenty of people to drive in this year. And I think you're absolutely right that 2022 could be even better for Mancini than 2021.
And his teammate, you'll see in our top 10 as well. I mean, this Orioles overall lineup just feels better, especially with the addition of Adley Rutschman. I could see 100 RBIs, quite honestly. I could see 30, 100, and a 270 batting average. That's getting into the start elite category.
And the crazy thing is he's being drafted behind Rizzo and behind Kiriloff, 187 ADP. So if you can get him behind those guys,
I would take Mancini before Rizzo and before Kiriloff, and I think that reflects in our rankings, and I think you would too. And I think that's kind of a no-brainer. Even if Rizzo goes on the Yankees, I would still take Mancini.
Agreed. Definitely. I'm kind of chalking Rizzo to the Yankees in these rankings. Like that just feels right at this point to me. But anyways, speaking of Yankees, 15th ranked shortstop, DJ LeMahieu, who is currently being drafted 112th. So big gap between Mancini and LeMahieu in terms of draft position. Last year was a down year for LeMahieu. He hit 268 with 10 bombs, 84 runs, 64 RBIs. And again, 4 stolen bases. So he's going to add a little speed to your game. But I think the upside here is crazy because I'm not going to bet on like a bounce back to what he was in the Colorado days. But in his first 2 seasons with the Yanks in 2019 and 2020, he combined for a 336 average. And in 2019, he hit 327 with 26 bombs, 109 runs. And I mean, why can't he go back to doing something close to that? Last year, his X batting average was close to 289, 20 points higher than his actual batting average. His hard hit rate was pretty much the same as it was in years prior. I feel like he was just dealing with bad luck last year. Every line drive that he hit seemed to be caught. I think he's being drafted as he's going to bounce back, and I see it. I really do see it.
You want to hear a conspiracy theory that has no credited sources except myself?
Yeah.
You know how DJ LeMahieu, Whit Merrifield, Gleyber Torres, a lot of the soft-ish hitting guys who had great 2019s, great 2020s with the juice ball, then they put the regular ball in last year and some guys struggled. I think post-lockout, we're going to get that juicy, bouncy ball back. The one that DJ LeMahieu hit pretty well with, the one that Whit Merrifield hit pretty well with, the one that Gleyber Torres hit pretty well with, and that they are going to bounce back. Now, is this backed up by any facts? No. Is this more backed up with, after seeing the lockout, seeing the way that MLB has messed around with the balls to their own liking, they're going to want more home runs next season after, I assume, fan engagement is going to be down, kind of similar to post 1994 when Bud Selig kind of, turned his cheek to the whole steroid thing. I think I'm not putting it past any of these owners of the commissioner's office anymore. I kind of think that might be the case. And if that is the case, I do see DJ LeMahieu having a bounce back. Now, if that's not the case, I still do think DJ LeMahieu could have a bounce back year. The problem was he was just putting the ball on the ground so much, grounding into double plays every single day, it felt like, especially as a Yankee fan, watching him day in and day out. But you're right. He was lining out. And, a lot of those that expecting batting average should be 600, but instead it gets caught. He ran into some bad luck last year. He's too good of a hitter for a 268 batting average with 10 home runs. I think that'll go right back up to near 280 or 290. And I think he'll hit 15 to 20 home runs and be one of the better first basemen in fantasy baseball.
Yeah, he had the 30th.
Fact that he could play second base, he could play third base. He could realistically play a bunch of different positions, and that versatility will help you a lot in fantasy baseball.
I mean, he was still hitting the ball very hard. It wasn't like, even if there was a dead ball, like he was still crushing the ball. 30th in balls hit over 100 miles an hour. He was still hitting the ball and barreling balls as we know DJ does. But yeah, you're right. 56% ground ball rate is high, which does allow him to hit for a higher average, I think, in some senses. So yeah, bounce back for DJ.
I just hope he's back to the player that he was, because in 2020, the dude hit 360. This could be one of the best overall hitters in baseball if everything goes his way. So that brings us to number 14, CJ Cron of the Colorado Rockies. Two things we do know. CJ Cron plays for the Rockies, and CJ Cron now rakes. The man hit 28 bombs with 92 RBIs last year while maintaining a 280 batting average. You hear that? 28 bombs with 92 RBIs and a 280 batting average. Something not many first basemen can say. Can we expect it again? I think we can, but maybe not totally to the extent of last year. His ex-WOBA was 20 points less than his WOBA, and his hard hit rate stats don't necessarily jump off the page. They're near the 50th percentile major league average. But I do think that we can expect a 270 batting average, maybe 260 to 270 with 25 to 30 home runs. But without much in that lineup, he may leave a lot of RBIs and runs on the table. But I still think CJ Cron in Colorado is a recipe for fantasy baseball success.
See, I think that the X stats here don't matter in the sense that every single guy in this Rockies lineup outperforms their X batting average and X WOBA just because they play in cores. I looked through the entire Rockies lineup last year. All of them were outproducing their expected batting averages by usually between 10 and 20 points.
Wow.
So Cron's X batting average was, I think, 265 to 270. I could see him putting up 285 again. I really could. I could see him pretty much doing the season that he just did. And in 2018 and 2019, he had 30 home runs and then 25 home runs, 28 last year. I could see him doing the same. I could see 285, 30 bombs. And I think you're right. I think the RBI total might be docked a little bit because that Rockies lineup is going to be bad. Yeah. But somebody's got to hit in front of him. Somebody's got to get on.
My only worry is, why I really pitched to him. without Trevor Story in that lineup, he may not see a lot of opportunities. Could he press a little bit? I don't know. I mean, I don't know CJ Cron that well, but what I do know is that CJ Cron rakes and he's in Colorado and he's going to perform at least close to what he did last year. Basically, what I was saying is I don't know if we should just pencil him in again for 281 and 28 home runs and 92 RBIs.
Yeah.
What I was thinking was 270, like you said, with the expected batting average of 265. I think 270 with 28 home runs.
Peter,
like
I really
80
think he's going to hit higher than 270. I really think so. I think he'll be at that 280 number again. I see no reason why he can't do that in Coors. Like I really think
we both ranked him pretty high, but I mean, maybe I would just push back on that. It's hard to maintain a 280 batting average back-to-back years. And, he could, I don't really have a strong opinion on 270 to 280. Like, I think we're splitting hairs here. But I just think that maybe my guess is I don't think he's going to exceed 280.
Okay. Fair enough there. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I think the important thing here is that Cron's ADP is 127. The three guys we have ahead of him, 11 through 13, have ADPs higher than him. So yeah, I think like we're maybe a little further down than consensus on Cron, but that doesn't mean that we don't love Cron. I think
we do like
is valid there.
We do definitely like Cron.
I mean, he's 14. It's still high.
Still high.
The 13th ranked guy is probably the guy that I'm most excited to talk about here because what he did in 2021 is just pure insanity, honestly. It's Joey Votto. He hit 266 with 36 home runs, 73 runs, and 99 RBIs. His 297 ISO last season was the highest of his career. And here's the other insane thing. He has not had a season with a hard hit rate above 40% since 2015. And you know what Joey Votto went and did last season? 53% hard hit rate, tied with Shohei Ohtani and Yasmani Grandal. He completely overhauled his approach last year. He had the highest strikeout rate of his career, 23%. Not that that matters at all. I mean, maybe he took a little hit in average, right? We're used to Votto being, he's a career 300 hitter, 266. I get it. But what he sacrificed that average for is so incredibly valuable. If he's going to hit 30 home runs again with, the Reds lineup also looks kind of bad next year, but they still have Jonathan India. They're still going to have hitters. Like they're still going to have enough hitters there where I think he could drive in close to 100 again, even if he's at that 85 to 90 RBI range. Insane what he did last year. I'm still in awe of him just completely overhauling what he did his whole entire career. And again, Joey Votto, lowest soft contact rate in all of baseball. 8% of contact goes for soft. Insane.
There's a couple things you should never do if you're a baseball fan. And one of them is doubt Joey Votto. Joey Votto still bangs. And I think your point to him kind of changing his approach is pretty spot on there. It's clear because Joey Votto is a guy who gets compared to Ted Williams sometimes because of the ability to maintain a 400 on base, maintain a 300 average, and still hit for some power. But he was never a guy, consistently at 30 home runs. But what we saw last year, I think is going to be what we see moving forward. I think he found something that was successful. Like you said, one of the best offensive seasons of his career thus far. I'm really liking Joey Votto this year. And at 13, I think it could be a steal. And I think you could easily see him enter the top 10 conversation. But if he does revert back to, all right, we're just putting the ball in play, we'll hit 300, but we won't hit for that same power. We won't drive in the same amount of RBIs. So there is the risk there, but I think we're in the boat where, no, this Joey Votto that we saw in 2021 is the Joey Votto that we will see in 2022, or at least close to
Agreed. All right, fantasy aside here, I have a question real quick. Do you think Joey Votto is a first ballot Hall of Famer, and would you vote for him on the ballot first time he's on there?
That's the problem. I need to see the rest of the ballot. It's so hard for that question because it's like you got 10 guys. Like I remember, is Todd Helton a Hall of Famer? Yes, Todd Helton is a Hall of Famer. But on this ballot, I thought there were 10 guys better than him. So I left him off the ballot. Do I think Joey Votto
is better than Helton?
I think you can make that argument. And I think Joey Votto should be a Hall of Famer. I don't know about first ballot yet.
I mean, I
just
think
think we need to see
in
more.
a Hall of
Yeah,
Fame.
I think he is a Hall of Famer. It
But
depends.
first ballot's
first
like
ballot.
another echelon. Yeah.
It's hard for me to wrap my mind around him being a first ballot, but if he continues to do this for a couple more seasons, we may have to have that conversation.
Yeah, I could see it. I could see it.
And number 12 is Rhys Hoskins of the Philadelphia Phillies. When he plays, Hoskins is one of the better first basemen in baseball. He's got 30 plus home run power, and with a good lineup around him, is a threat for 100 RBIs. Philly has some moves to make to piece together this offense, but Rhys will be one of the main contributors they rely on. Expect a lower batting average, most likely in the 230-ish range, but expect a ton of power if he stays on the field. These next few seasons should look like his prime, as he's a free agent in 2024, and he is still just 28 years old. These next 2 seasons are big if Rhys Hoskins wants to get a big payday. He's got to stay healthy. I'm sure he's working on that this offseason. He's not a guy who's just always hurt, but 41 games in 2020, 107 games in 2021. He's just dealt with nagging things every so often. In a full 140, 150 games, he's incredible and a really safe bet just based on health.
Agreed. I'm right with you, man. I think you said 30 home run potential. I think Rhys Hoskins could, not even on the off chance. Like, I think it's a realistic possibility that Hoskins stays healthy. And in 2018 and 2019, he had almost 700 plate appearances. If he gets 700 plate appearances again, I think he could hit 40 home runs.
I do too. I think he gets 35 to 40. I agree.
He hits everything hard. I could see it. I really, really could see it. He's being drafted ADP 138 right now. I'm buying him right there. He had a top 15 barrel rate last year. He missed time due to an ab injury, which is always tough because baseball is such a rotational sport. Hitting and pitching are just so rotational that if you have oblique or ab injuries, it can be very, very dampening to hard hit rates. But I think he's going to come back healthy this year and rake like Rhys Hoskins does.
I also think the Phillies are going to add more to that offense. We just played general manager with the Philadelphia Phillies on the Just Baseball show, and we made a trade for Kevin Kiermaier to play center, and then we also signed Kevin Pillar. And when you go around the diamond, and we're expecting a bounce back here from Alec Boehm, if you have a Didi Gregorius / Bryson Stott, duo at shortstop with Gene Segura, Rhys Hoskins, Seiichi Realmuto, Alec Boehm at third, and then you have some combination of not Mickey Moniak and Adam Hazley, but you have some, actual big league players combined with Bryce Harper. It's a very solid lineup. I could see it. I think Rhys Hoskins is going to have a pretty good year. The only problem is the division he plays in, the pitching is unfreaking real. But in the NL West, it's tough too. There's good pitching everywhere, but especially with the addition of Max Scherzer to the Mets, he's going to deal with some tough arms. But Rhys Hoskins he's just really good and really safe and one of the best first basemen in baseball.
Yeah, I don't think you can get 40 home run potential like out of the top 10. So yeah, I think he's a great selection at 140. Number 11 is Ty France of the Seattle Mariners. This is a guy that I know you love. You always say Ty France just shows up to the ballpark and he's going to hit. Like he's just going to slap the ball around. He's going to hit 4 line drives, 2 doubles, 2 singles. Then he's just going to go home. He's going to go to bed. He's going to wake up the next day. He's going to show up at the ballpark and hit again. Just the guy he is.
That's what Ty France
is. All he does. So his slash line last year was 291, 18 home runs, 85 runs, 73 RBIs. No stolen bases for Mr. France. He is definitely not a speedster. It was his first full season. That might shock you, but last year was his first full season. He's still just 26, about to turn 27. I like him going into his sophomore season. I don't know if he will put up the average that he did last year. I think 291 is a bit aggressive. I could see 275 to 280 with 20 bombs. And I think the Mariners lineup's going to be much better this next year with J-Rod entering it. Kellenic is going to return and be much, much better than we saw in his debut. I could see France putting up close to 100 runs in this lineup. He's going to get on base. He's going to have a lot of runs, and I could see 75 to 80 RBIs. Another guy that's just like bread and butter. Give me Ty France on my team. Like, I know this guy's going to produce.
See, I know exactly what you're saying. He's going to produce. And that's why I'll almost push back a little bit on the batting average, because you're totally right. If we're looking at the expected stats, he's, we're looking at a 270 instead of a 291. My thing is, I just think Ty France is such a good hitter that he will always outperform the expected batting average. I think 290 is realistic. And if he's going to give you between 15 to 20 home runs and plenty of RBIs and runs, with a Julio Rodriguez coming up, with Jared Kelenic probably giving you a better sophomore season, I think the Mariners lineup might be a little bit better. And I think Ty France will be right in the middle of that, scoring runs, getting RBIs. And I think we could see a little bit more power. But I think it's really kind of tapped out at that 18 range. I'd be really kind of surprised if he hit more than 20. But also, I'm not going to ever doubt Ty France, because the dude just goes to the ballpark and freaking hits. That's why, even though the expected stats might not say, even the hard hit rate stats may not agree with me, he's a guy that just on gut, I think Ty France is going to perform just as well, if not better, next year.
Yeah. And I mean, I think like his hard hit rate was about average last year, 39%. But I wouldn't, Ty France in his sophomore season, like I could see him putting up 43% hard hit rate. Like that's obviously just a thrown out number, but I could see him improving next year in the power department for sure. And he's just going to be a doubles machine. This is a safe bet. And again, I think Ty France, I think Rhys Hoskins and Votto even are just like super, super close. The gap between those guys rankings wise is so close that like, if you're out there listening and you're like, oh, I can't believe they ranked France ahead Hoskins, like, don't take that too aggressively.
Literally, because also I think to your point as well, is a lot of these guys, they're all pretty solid. Like, I mean, if you rank Ty France 16th instead of 11, I don't think either of us would be like, oh, no, you cannot do that, because a lot of them are pretty close. It's also going to matter, what does your team look like in a 5x5, right? Because if you got a lot of power early, maybe you grabbed Pete Alonso, or that's a bad example because Pete Alonso was another first baseman. But let's say you grabbed, I don't know, who's going to hit 40 freaking home runs?
Well, I think, just to stop you right there, Pete, I think first base is like, you're not going to get stolen bases from first base, most likely. And that it's a position where you should be trying to grab 40 home runs.
But Ty France is also a guy who could lead this position in batting average next year. Maybe not more than Yuli Gurriel.
Not lead, but yeah, I think he could be in the top 8, top 5.
Yeah. And I think so. He hits on different categories that maybe you might not find from some other guys. But like, I think that Ty France could be a threat to hit, 300. So when you're thinking about that, Ty France becomes a bit more juicy.
Yeah. Agreed. I might take Hoskins.
So yes. So let's go back through those rankings, because just to recap, 20 was Alex Kiriloff, 19 Yuli Gurriel, 18 Brandon Belt, 17 Anthony Rizzo, 16 Trey Mancini, 15 DJ LeMahieu, 14 CJ Cron, 13 Joey Votto, 12 Rhys Hoskins, 11 Ty France. So Colby, who out of those do you think has the best chance to be in the top 10? And who do you think has the best chance to fall out of the top 20?
I think that Rhys Hoskins has the biggest chance to enter the top 10, just because his upside is, I think, higher than any of the other guys on this list. I think that if DJ LeMahieu does not bounce back, which I think that he will, but if he doesn't, I think he has a chance to just completely drop out of the top 20 going into 2023. Yeah, I think that those are my picks. What about you? What do you think?
I think Joey Votto has a great chance to enter the top 10. I think Ty France, I know we ranked him above both of them. I kind of think he will just be the 11th ranked fantasy baseball player. I think Joey Votto, with the power, if he could somehow figure out maybe to hit 270, 275 with 30 jacks, he's going to drive in plenty of runs. I think Joey Votto could be within the top 10. And a guy I could see potentially dropping out, Anthony Rizzo. I think he's a solid baseball player, but as he continues to get up there in age, could the power falter off a little bit, depending on what team he goes to? Like if he goes to the Yankees, most likely not, maybe still. But if he goes to a team, maybe he goes back to Miami, right? And he's playing in with the Marlins, and he doesn't have that many opportunities to drive in runs. He's not scoring that many runs. And in Miami, it's hard to hit home runs. He's from Florida, so that possible reunion could make sense. That's why I'm thinking Anthony Rizzo is probably not a guy I'm drafting, at least in the top 20.
I think Kiriloff could enter the top 10.
Me too.
I think our 20th really ranked guy, but I think the only thing that he needs is plate appearances, which are not even guaranteed for him in that Twins lineup, which is like not a stacked lineup, but it has just a ton of guys that need plate appearances. Like they have like 12 guys that I'm like, he could get 500 plate appearances. But if he does get 550 plate appearances, I think that people will come around to seeing Kiriloff as a close to top 10 first baseman.
I agree. I think I was just a little bit too early on Kiriloff last year. I just think
I think we both were. I've been huge on him. He just got hurt.
Yeah, he just got hurt. I mean, what are you going to
do? It's a wrist injury too. It's not like he tore his ACL. It's like he'll come back from that. He'll be fine.
So there's a lot of talent here in the first base rankings, and we're excited to give you part 2 on Friday. We will be ranking 10 to 1, and then you can find the full top 30 on justbaseball.com. I also implore you, in the episode description, there's a link to our merch store, and I'm rocking the Not Gambling Advice tee. I'm looking pretty fresh. Colby's rocking the Just Baseball sweatshirt. We're both looking pretty handsome right now. I'm not going to lie.
Beanie mode was activated today. It's not necessarily chilly outside, but it is rainy and just like a type of day that you just kind of want to go sit on the couch with like a coffee and like turn the fireplace on and like get cozy. That seems like the move today, but I'm going to go to the gym after this. So
I'm also going to go to the gym. Maybe, are you going to be lifting in your Just Baseball merch? Because it can duel as a cool going out shirt plus a workout shirt, because it hugs your biceps a little bit and it makes you feel
dude, the Not Gambling Advice shirt is like,
they fit well, don't they?
Like, yeah, the sleeves are like up here, the biceps just flare.
Ooh.
Look at us.
Well, that goes it for Wednesday's edition of Not Gambling Advice. And thank you, everybody.
Peace.